Hey guys, welcome back to the TrinFx channel here. My name is Zichomi Fletcher, owner and founder of the TrinFx YouTube and Discord channel. And I just want to get a quick input about my weekly analysis, what I do expect coming up this week, as we did have an interesting week last week, right? So I just want to take a current look at the markets and some of the fundamentals that we do have coming up and discuss some possible moves that we can see from that. So taking a quick look, and I always like to start with the fundamentals, what we have coming up initially for the new week. So on the Monday, we don't really have much, just some Fed talks and some sentiments. We only have the NAB business confidence, so we have that coming up. That's around 11 or so, sorry, not 11 but around 9 or so, right? So we have that coming up. On the Tuesdays, when things start to get kind of more news heavy, so we have unemployment rate for the GBP that's coming out as expected. The consensus is the same as the previous, right? So if it comes out as expected with that 3.8%, then I think that would give us sort of a bearish move on the GBP, or at least a temporary bearish move or reason for a pullback with the overall uptrend that we are seeing on the GBP. All right, and we'll take a look at that just now. We also do have RBA governor speech and NZD interest rate decision, right? With the NZD interest rate decision, you can see that the previous and consensus, it looks like it's going to remain the same, or at least that's what we have here from the analysts and them. So with that being said, if we do come out as expected, right, the consensus and the actual number does come out at 5.5%, that would give us a bearish move on the NZD. All right, and we could take a look at one trade that I think in particular would be really good, would be something like maybe GBP NZD or something along that source, Euro NZD as well, because we have clear fundamental differences between the NZD and the Euro, same as the GBP and the NZD, right? So we have clear fundamental differences on those two, so I do think that would be more so the best trades to get in on. All right, for the Wednesday, we do have a lot of heavy US news, right? So we have CPI coming out. Looks like CPI is expected to be higher than the previous, right? We also have core inflation rate. You can see inflation is coming down gradually, and the inflation rate comparison coming down at the consensus is 3.1% compared to the previous, which is 4%. All right, so gradually inflation is coming down for the US economy. It's doing really better than all the other economies out there. So with that being said, if we do have inflation coming lower, right, at that 5%, I do think that would be enough to give us even more of a bearish move on the dollar, right? Especially compared to last week, we saw a movement that we did see with the job opening numbers, right, as well as NFP. That did give us sort of a bearish move on the dollar, and we'll take a look at that as well. All right, besides that, we have interest rate decisions for the Canadian economy, monetary policy report as well, so this is something that we'll be paying attention to. But for me in this case, I don't think I'll really be trading news or trying to trade this news event for the Canadian dollar, just because of how in sync the Canadian dollar has been with the USD. So really, it would be a sort of a tricky thing for me to actually trade this in a bullish bias, so to speak, right? So something like this, I think we'll just have to wait and see what type of movements we get during the course of the week, right? If we do get movements that make sense, that okay, at this point, if we do see the interest rate come out as expected, the consensus compared to the previous, then we may be able to get sort of a movement on that in a positive direction. All right, besides that, the Thursday we also do have some more GBP news and we have some more USD news looking at core PPI. We also have continuing jobless claims too. Looks like that is expected to come out higher, right? And that will be bad for the US economy. So we do have a lot of bearish news sentiment for the USD, and Friday is a pretty chill day for Friday. All right, so we went over just now the amount of news events that we do have. It's a pretty heavy USD week, right? And that starts all from the Tuesday, all right, where we start seeing the GBP numbers, and then we have on Wednesday, that's where we start seeing all these USD heavy impactful news events. Okay, so take a quick look at the charts, what we could expect, right? So something I'd like to take a look at AUDUSD, right? And the USD on a whole, let's just take a look here at the DXY real quick. On the USD on a whole, if we take a look here at the DXY, we can see this really strong bearish move. And in my previous analysis, right? My previous analysis, and as I went through the course of doing the live streams, which I do every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday now, right? I discussed this, that this is what we will be looking for. We had a squeeze right here, right? Gradually seeing price coming up on the DXY, retesting this zone here. And now, after we had this rejection here in ADP employment news, right? We have this squeeze looking like we're going to have a bearish movement or breakout to downside on the US dollar, which you can see we did have that happening here. Now, what can we expect from the USD? Are we going to see a rebound recovery from here? Well, that's likely what bulls would like to do. They want to see price actually rebound from this supportive area, right? And try to get the dollar back into a good standing, right? Which would be right around here. If we retest this zone, then we'll be stuck within this sort of squeeze right here, or consolidation, right? Or we could just see a push lower on the dollar here, right? So price actually breaking to the downside and breaking these lows to continue lower, right? Now this seems like the likely scenario for me, that break to the downside, because right now we do have a lot of USD bearishness, all right, especially with numbers coming out for these other economic values, right, such as look at CPI. If inflation does come out lesser than the consensus, or as lesser than the previous, then that gives us more of a bearish tone on the dollar, as well as it would mean that, all right, maybe at this point the Fed isn't really thinking about hiking rates. Well, we do know that we did have rate hikes projections, right? At least like 2 more times we'll see a rate hike for the remainder of the year, right? And those were the projections that we did get from the Fed during the last major news event, whenever that was like week before last week, right? So we're taking a look at that, right? Markets are taking that into consideration, expecting the Fed to hike again, right? At least twice for the year again, and that was the projection when the Fed used their tools or whatever they do have implemented. That was the projection. However, given the current recent news events that we do have, right, they need to take these things into value as well. You can't hike rates in an economy that isn't performing that well, right? Because it will have an adverse effect on the dollar itself, and could also leave everyone into like a recession, right? And that is the fear, recessions. So with that being said, taking a look at it right now on the economic numbers that we do have, it really depends on these next current set of news events. Whether we're going to see price increase or not, it really is going to depend on these next current news events, and everything is looking very bearish at this point. So in terms of what I'm expecting to see price to do, is to actually continue to the downside. Now, firstly, just to be more on the conservative side, we'd like to see a break of this zone, right? If price could break lower here, then I think the next set of continuations we'll see will be all the way down here to this zone. And at that point, if we do break out, we'll start just trending downwards on the dollar, right? And so that's my DXY analysis. And in terms of the DXY, okay, what trades can we take with that? AUDUSD is one of the trades I'm currently looking at. So taking a look from the daily down to the forward and then to the 1 hourly, where you see that, okay, we do have this sort of zone movement right here, right? For the past couple of days, this is sort of like the area we've been trading in. However, given that last week, right, from Friday, we have this close to the upside here, I'm looking to see that swing come up even higher, right? And possibly even coming all the way back up into these highs right here. All right, so what's my reasoning for this? Again, very weak dollar, right? Compared to the AUD and other risk assets, the dollar itself is the least performing currency right now, right? At least the worst performing currency among the other assets right now. So in terms of like my setup for this, what I'm expecting to do or what I want to see is price break from here, right? This resistance zone. If we get a break to the upside, I think the next target would be right into this area here. So this would be like sort of the movement I want to see, right? Price breaks up, a continuation to the upside here. This would be sort of like the trade idea I do have for this, right? So continuation, price breaks up, stop loss right around here. We get that break, continuation higher, right? At that point, if we do break above this resistance zone, there should be no reason why price dips below this area, right? We should just see a continuation to the upside, and that is what I want to see in order to gain some profits off of this. And in terms of news events that we do have, right, for the Monday, we have that NAB business confidence. So if this number does come out higher rather than this consensus being lesser than previous, right? And I do think this would actually come out higher, given some other fundamental analysis I have done for the AUD. This number should be higher than the actual consensus. So I don't know why they have -6 here, but whatever. With that being said, I do think that we should see a continuation here on AUDUSD. Another one that we could take a look at is like AUDCHF, and I'll say why AUDCHF rather than AUDJPY or AUDNCD or AUDCAD, right? AUDCAD, in terms of the overall price action, not really like any movement, right? Take a look at the daily and 4-hourly, you'll see why, right? So on the daily here, AUDCAD, we can see that we gradually starting to come up a little bit right now. Again, the USD and the CAD has been moving in tandem with each other, so that is something I like to take into consideration. And we do have some bullish CAD news coming up, right? So in terms of that, it seems more risky in my case, at least for what I do or what I trade. So I don't really want to add that additional risk onto something like AUDCAD, right? AUDUSD is something that looks like, you know, very beneficial, and that it looks like it could actually play out rather than AUDCAD. It's just a lot of choppiness, right? I don't think the price action movement is as better as AUDUSD. I don't think it's better than that. So with that being said, I can see this sort of movement, right? I don't like that. So with that being said, it's not really a pair that I'm comfortable with entering in. Especially with the fundamentals that I am putting in place. AUDCHF looks pretty better for me, especially since we have this sort of movement to the downside. Again, this is with USD weakness too. We saw that actually playing out here on AUDJPY. A lot of the yen pairs as well has seen some bullishness with that weakness from the dollar, and we gradually see the yen actually picking up steam, right? So in terms of AUDCHF, why I'll get into this on a possible buy, right, or retracement back to the upside, maybe correcting this movement here to the downside. Let's take a look from the daily down to the 4-hourly. So we can see that, all right, overall price came down. We touch into this area twice. We could use this as a supportive level. Okay, now taking a look overall, gradually we're seeing price actually incline a little bit, right? And I'm not somebody that particularly uses trend lines as a technical support for my analysis or anything like that, but I just want to show you guys that gradually we're seeing price gradually come higher, right? So with that being said, we actually take this as the high here, the daily highs, right? Coming down to the 4-hourly and the 1-hourly, I do think we could see a play out of a sort of a zoning movement right into here, right? A playback to the upside, yeah, a swing to the up, right? So from the 4-hourly and the daily, from the 4-hourly and the 1-hourly, right? What I want to see is price break above here, this recent sort of resistance zone within that strong downtrend that we saw, right? And then I think we could see a continuation higher. So this would be like the first target for me, a correction back to this upside here, and then what I like to see is a continuation movement to the upside, right? So this is sort of like a longer swing trade term, but yeah, this is something I do see that we could potentially see happening, especially if we have that CHF news, right? If CHF news does come out a little weaker and we have a stronger AUD as well. which is what I'm expecting for this week moving into, right? But this is sort of like a swing trade movement, right? And intraday trading, day trading, the AUDUSD is something that's more particularly likely to happen rather than, you know, just seeing the swing trade play out without any sort of resistance from the top side, right? Other than that, let's take a look at gold, right? So gold was an actual trade that I did call out during one of the live streams as well, and I could actually show you guys that in trade ideas, right? So yeah, this was it when gold when gold was right here into the zone. This was something that I called out on the live streams at the point, and then I sent this chart within the trade ideas. If I'm not taking a trade, but you know, I'm still think that it's viable to take, I'll send that trade in trade ideas rather than send it in the setup groups itself, so that members could actually review the chart, see if it's something they want to get into for themselves, and then enter it, knowing that I'm not entering it personally, right? Because I know some people, they like to wait, they want to wait to hear that you enter the trade personally. So like, you know, if you're taking the same risk as them, obviously you want to win, so you're going into the idea that, all right, he took that trade because you see that trade is potentially going to play out. But I also want members to actually think for themselves as well, right? So I sent that in, and you see it gradually did play out, right? And I did have my analysis, which was for, okay, if price touches this area first, then we're going to see some sort of rejection, and then the next continuation area is going to be into this second zone right here, which is what we saw happening, right? And vice versa, if this was actually the first sort of movement was to reach to the zone first, we'll see a rejection and then a continuation higher, right? And so said, so done. We reach into the zone first, rejected from it, and then price gradually start pulling higher. And as we came to the end of the day, we did touch into that second zone as predicted, right? And that's just understanding the fundamentals of price action movement, really. So that did end up playing out. Now in terms of gold continuations, what I think we're going to see continuations, all right? So, and this is like just from my perspective. Again, I could be wrong. I could be wrong in my analysis. I could be wrong with the fundamentals and stuff like that. Nothing is guaranteed in trading. We just have our own analysis and we have our own biases. And something that I always like to preach is that you should remain flexible when it comes to the markets and analyzing the markets, because you don't know, during the week something might change that may cause your bias to shift, right? Or your bias is no longer valid, so you need to be able to shift gears as well, right? So, but with gold right now, if you take a look at the 4 hourly and the 1 hourly, right, this is an area of rejection that we did come into. Now with the weaker dollar, I do think that we could see sort of a wick fill on this area, so gold can come back from which part it currently closed at back into that zone, and then a continuation. If you want to be more conservative, however, you can wait until we see a break of this zone and then enter gold longs to the daily highs, right, to the major daily highs, which will be right around into this area here, right? So that's sort of like my expectancy for gold. I personally don't really trade gold, so I wouldn't be getting into this trade, but this is something that I think has a lot of potentiality to play out, right? So first targeted to this area, right, got a strong bullish close, then I think we could see a continuation even higher, and that's sort of like my take on gold right now. In terms of anything else, I do think the only thing, probably EURUSD and GBPUSD is something that I might consider. Now EURUSD, again, just approach the highs, right? Weaker dollar, highs approached, looking for an overall continuation of that movement. Not really seeing any reason to be dollar bull right now. So with that being said, looking for that continuation movement on the, well, for the euro side against the dollar right now, right? Some sort of pullback could be expected, right? So we could pull back into these major areas here, or even just a slight pullback, or price just maintaining this area and then a continuation higher. But I'm not in any rush, right? So with this, because it's such a strong bullish move and the euro does benefit from USD weakness, I think we can see that continuation, but I like to see some sort of pullback first, right? Just for like a better confirmation in terms of like an entry area, rather than trying to risk getting into a continuation movement with zero pullbacks, right? So that's something I'll wait on actually. And GBPUSD, so like the same thing overall, really nice uptrend here. Could wait for a pullback into these areas, something that we can get, and then a continuation, right? Take a look at the 4-hourly. We can see that we did approach into this daily high right here, right? And then price on the day actually rejected from that area and started closing a little bit below. So we may get that retracement first and then a continuation, and that's something that I'm looking forward to possibly, you know, making a trade on, right? After we get that pullback into this area, then I do think, you know, the continuation seems like it seems highly more plausible to see price continue to the upside. And that's basically my take right there. Everything else we'll have to wait and see. I'm really trying to minimize the amount of trades that I do enter and focus more on the quality rather than the quantity. We do have a lot of good setups here in the TrinFx VIP group, right? And that's something I've showed time and time again. But at the same time, you always want to minimize your risk, right? And sometimes you have to be patient to wait on a trade to come to you, and that is what I've been focusing more on, and like getting the grasp of more, really, the quality over quantity. And once you have the quality in terms of your setups, whatever trade ideas you do have, then of course the value added would be, you know, better risk to reward and also better win rate and stuff like that, right? So overall, everything goes up when you increase your quality of the trades, right? So that's it for me in terms of what I'm looking at. Really don't want to hold you guys up too much. This is actually longer than I expected it to be. And yeah, if you found anything useful, valuable in this video, then please feel free to leave a like. It really helps the channel, as well as subscribe for any future updates. My weekly analysis is something I do every week. Usually upload it on Sunday, so I'm gonna upload it on Saturday today, and you know, give you guys more time to actually digest the content and information. And as well, I do live streams on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 5 a.m. EST. The London session, looking at GBP, JPY, and gold as well. Alright guys, so thank you so much for joining. See you next one. Have a great weekend and a great trading week. Peace.